Hi everyone. In this video, we're going to have a look at how we can get started using the GROK learning platform to do some programming. This video is going to be generic, so it'll apply to students doing either Python or Blockly. We're just going to look at the structure of this site itself, not the actual languages that you're using. So this is what they call the Launchpad here at GROK, and I can see up in the top there is a link to Launchpad. If I ever get stuck, I can come back to this point. As you're not a teacher, most likely you won't have a teacher dashboard link. If you are a teacher watching this, then you may have that option available to you. So at any stage, if I'm stuck, I can click on Launchpad to come back to this point. The GROK Learning logo also works in the same way. You can click on that to come back to the Launchpad. Now up the top on the left, you usually have the challenge or task that you're currently working on. So you can come back into the last worked on thing, press continue, and keep going with that task. And to the right of that, you have your account settings area, which shows who you are and what you're doing. It also shows your achievement badges that you've earned over time, and you can press view all to have a look at the rest of those. It just shows the first 8 or so that you've got. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll start to see the list of all the different available tasks and challenges and so forth that you can do here on the GROK platform. Now they're all color coded, so if you look at just above here, you can see the color codes. So competitions are sort of a pinky color, NISA, which is an acronym for another area that we won't be using, are sort of purple, junior ones, newbies, beginners, intermediate, and so forth. So you can start to use those colors to work out whether a task might be suited to you. You also have a search area down the side, or a filtering area, I should say, down the side here. So you can say I'm looking for only things for GROK Learning that are Blockly based, that have live tutoring available, and so forth. So you can start to choose options, and as you saw, as I clicked those, it was changing what was available to me here. So based on the 3 things I've chosen at the moment, there are 6 possible tasks that I can do that suit those criteria. And of course, as you change them, that is live. We can go back to what we have. There is a search. So again, if you know there's a particular task you're looking for, you can search up the top for that. And basically, that's how you navigate and find a task. The other thing that will also happen is your teacher may, again, assuming that you're a student watching this, your teacher may assign a task to you, and they will also show up here to say these are tasks that your teacher says you have to do. So there are several ways to find a task to do. Once you have found a task that you're interested in or that you need to do, you basically just need to click on it. So I'm going to have a look at this BBC microbit starter in Blockly. I can see a few bits of information about it, so a summary of it, how many modules it's going to have, how many questions it's going to have. So when I'm happy this is the one I want to do, I can just click on the title up here, or I can click on the continue or start. Now, if it's the first time you ever clicked on this one, it'll say start, like this one down here, but I've actually clicked on this one once before, so for me it's a continue. Doesn't really matter, but I'm just going to click up the top for now. So this is what all courses in GROK look like. So we have 3 sections that we can start with, okay? The modules is sort of like the overall summary. So there's actually 2 modules that make up this course, and each of these 2 modules has 4 pieces that we need to do, 4 tasks if you like, and they're represented by these diamonds. Now if I go to the problems section, again I can see that in a bit more detail. So module 1 has 4 tasks, and these are the tasks that I'm going to have to do. Module 2, same thing, 4 tasks. If I go to the slides, this is essentially the learning sections, like the book section that I need to learn to be able to do those problems. So you can go to problems or slides if you need to, but it's always easier just to stay in the module, go into the module itself by clicking on the module name, and then going through the work in the order that it's intended. So this is what a module might look like. So if we have a look on the left hand side here, we have sort of like our contents, if you like, or our index. Now we can expand that out by clicking this 3 dots and 3 dashes. So there we can see some more information about them, and we can use this to sort of jump ahead and move around the course if we need to. And we close this to get some space back, which is very important, by clicking the X. circles in this area are basically learning. So as we can see here, we're learning about something called the BBC microbit. So I can scroll through if need be. There's only on one screen at the moment, and I can read the information. Sometimes there's links that I can click on to have a look at stuff that's outside of GROK and come back later. And when I'm happy to go to the next slide, I can either click on the next little circle or thing in the list here, or I can simply click on the arrows up the top. So this is an example of a piece of learning, but there's actually an interactive component. So this is a bit of Blockly coding, so I can actually modify what happens here. And in this case, I'll be able to see the output in a simulator. So again, each type of learning has a working space and it has a demonstration space. So in the case of this, if I press the little run code button, I'm now seeing in the simulator what this code up here is telling it to do. And because this is all live, I can literally change these options. So I'm going to change it to surprised. And if I click run this time, you can see I got a different response. So it's really a good idea to not only read through the work, but also to play with and adjust the samples that you have in the instructions so that you fully understand the task. If you get yourself a little bit mixed up, especially when you're doing Python, you can always press this little return to original, and it just sets everything back the way it was when you first got there. So if you really sort of stuffed it up, you can always have another go. As I keep working through, I eventually get to one of those diamonds, and diamonds is where you now have to complete a task that gets assessed. So this is what all assessment pages look like. All right, so first of all, it's a little bit different. There are 3 sections to it. The left-hand side is the problem. Very important that you read it carefully all the way through. Don't just skip it thinking you know what you have to do. The top right is your programming area. So in the case of Blockly, it's where you can grab things and drag them out. In the case of Python, it is where you will type your commands in so that you create a program. But either way, you create something in this space, which then when you run it, you'll see the output down the bottom right. So whether that's text output or graphical depends on what you're doing, but you'll see the output of your program down here. Now, to run your program, once you've got something you think is correct, you come up to the top right here and you say run. And as I said, you'll see the result down the bottom. That result could include an error. It's very important to read the error messages to tell you whether you're on the right track or not. And they usually give you a very good indication of where you may have gone wrong. Again, if you've really stuffed up this program, you want to start again, you can always press the reset option to take it back to how it was when you first arrived. Saving is a very important thing to do. Save regularly. Now, when you run a program, it often saves for you, but it's always good practice to get into to press the save button. And you can, in fact, download, especially when you're talking about microbit. You wouldn't always download a Python program necessarily, but you can download to keep a file separate if you'd like to. Again, you don't need to do that because it's all saved within the GROK platform, but you do have that option. And that's pretty much how the structure goes. So when you get something right, this will end up becoming green over here. These diamonds become green. When you haven't completed it, they stay either clear or sometimes go sort of a orangey color to say you've tried but haven't succeeded yet. So again, read through the program carefully, the question, and have a go. Again, unless you happen to be a teacher watching this, you won't have the teacher notes available, but that's there so your teacher can give you a bit more guidance. Here I am going to need to show an animal. That's basically what it's asking me to do. So once I'm happy with that, I've run it and I feel confident, the last step is to mark my work. So you only get this mark option when you've got a working program. Now, working program doesn't mean correct program. It just means there are no errors stopping it from working. So once you are very confident that you are correct, you'll come up here and mark it. It's always going to ask you again if you're sure. Now, this is especially important for the competitions where you eventually lose points for too many incorrect attempts. You can run it as many times as you like, but when you go to mark it, you will eventually lose points. So if I'm really sure I'm correct now, I go submit, and it goes through some questions and tests out your work. Now we can see here I have not successfully done it. So this is one of those errors that you really should read. It says that it's supposed to show a happy face, right? But what I'm showing is a butterfly. So I haven't followed the question over here correctly. So I'm going to close the error, and I'm going to come back to my program, and I'm going to make sure that I'm showing the right face. So what was I supposed to see? Oh, I can't remember. So I can go back to my submission, and I can see what it's supposed to do. So it's saying it should have seen a happy face. So if I look back at my program, if I look in my drop down in this case, I can't find a happy face because I need to change the category first. So this one I'm going to say faces, and now I can say happy. I have to run my program again. So again, doesn't matter if you're doing Python or Blockly, you always have to run your program to make sure it's working. And then I come back to mark it again. And this time, because I've now successfully completed it, you can see everything is green and I'm ready to move on. Okay, there is my past piece of work, and you can see over here that my diamond is now green. I go across to the next piece of work, do some more learning through each of these circles, and eventually I get down to this next diamond where I have a new task to do. And that is the structure for all the work. Again, doesn't matter if you're doing Python, Blockly, microbits, it doesn't matter if you're doing a competition or just a normal task. This is the structure. Read through your slides, get to a diamond, which is a question. The layout will look the same as this pretty much. You read the question carefully in the left-hand side, you program in the top right, you see your results in the bottom right, you run your program, and then you mark your program at the end. And you keep going through until it's done. As I said, you can go out of it and come back in, jump back in where you were. You don't have to go through the whole thing again. You can always jump technically anywhere you like. You can move around these lists here, but of course, until you actually complete all of the diamonds successfully, then you can't say that you've actually completed this whole module. And that's what would show up on your main screen, and also to your teacher, that you haven't actually finished the module, you've just sort of skipped around it a bit. So that's a really quick introduction to what it looks like and how the site itself works. Most importantly is when you're doing a module that you are reading very, very carefully, programming and testing thoroughly before marking your work. If you're having any other trouble, please speak with your teacher, or you can also often contact the GROK people directly. Just make sure you're being very polite when you do, and don't expect an instant response. GROK usually takes at least a couple of days, except in the competition, they're pretty quick, but usually if it's a technical issue they'll take at least a few days to get back to you. So you are probably better off speaking with your teacher first of all before deciding that you need to speak to the GROK people. All right, I'll leave you with it. Have a play with it, and we'll see you in the next video.